Everyone for coming tonight.
Same.
I guess because there's no TV cameras, people don't like to show up.
No, they're all up at the school district office.
Oh.
They don't have to come here today.
That's fine.
Are we recording yet? I hope.
Yes.
Oh, shoot. Oh, well. Oh, well.
Once again,
The board has already returned from exec session. There is, next is
We're
the
waiting
pledge.
1 minute in case all those people want to run in.
At the last minute.
can we turn the microphones up more?
I know, they're
good.
very loud.
I'm gonna move. It's 5:30. You're good.
Okay, 5:30. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Let's see, let's start. We already returned from executive session. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Okay. No presentations. Okay. Individuals who wish to address the board should state their name and address for the record, make their points as clearly and concisely as possible, and limit their comments to a maximum of 3
Hurry
minutes.
before Kevin gets in here.
Which may be shared or yielded. All comments shall be directed to the Board of Township Trustees. Thank you in advance for your comments.
You're just in time.
No. We're going to take
Kevin,
them
did you
away.
want to make a comment to the board? Bill, anybody? Okay, you're listening. Okay, great.
Well, I hate to disappoint you. It's not on the agenda.
Okay, great. Trustee comments.
Oh, I do have one comment. Thank you, Chief. Tony Reiser says the light is flashing red. You all have.
Okay, thank you.
Good stuff.
Trustees? Josh? Lexi?
Well, Merry Christmas. And I was looking to see if the screen up behind me. So, there are two presentations on the Anderson Township Ohio.gov page. I believe Steve did them both, but they are really, really, really nice. So the one is what's new in Anderson. I can't, there it is up at the top. And the other one is a presentation that Steve gave, really showing some of the planning that's been done that's directly impacted our schools and made them safer. I thought it was so well done. So it's there on that homepage there if you want to take a look at them. And that's it, besides Merry Christmas.
Josh?
All good.
Tonight's the longest night of the year, everyone. Just know that tomorrow it will stay lighter a little longer.
I'm happy with that.
So that's it. We're on our way to the other side. And have a good holiday. Okay, fiscal office.
That was beautiful.
I went to a longest night of the year blessing ceremony last night. That's why it's on
Nice. Oh, that's
my
nice.
brain.
All right, we have some old business. The audit report has finally been released, so we're officially finished with the audit. You have the November financials in front of you. We've collected 98% of what we've estimated, which a year ago it was 97%, so pretty comparable. And because this is the last meeting of the year, we're going to do some final adjustments. We're always monitoring estimated resources, estimated revenue versus what we actually collect. We monitor appropriations versus what we estimate our resources to be, and then we also monitor expenditures versus what we've appropriated. So this is the last meeting of the month, and we're going to kind of clean things up and get them closer to what the actuals are. So if you go to 5B, we have the first item. You have a column of our current estimated resources, and then what we expect them to be at the end of this month, and then what the change is. And then behind that, we have what I'll call revised permanent appropriations. So we did permanent appropriations earlier in the year, and we've made changes throughout the year, and we need to make a few more, or reduce some, add some. So, and this is at the township's legal level of control. And then this gets reported to the county budget commission. And then for next year, we're going to try this format for the appropriations. I think we're going to try to do something similar each month, so you can see what the appropriations were, and then what this month's changes will be, and then what they, so that we have a current balance,
Thank
Okay.
you.
instead of the normal memo that you
Yeah, okay, good.
normally see. So you can kind of, each month you can see what the new amount is.
Thank you. I move to approve the 2023 final appropriations and revenues as presented by the fiscal officer.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
And we have several minutes to approve.
I move to approve the minutes from September 20th, October 5th, November 30th, and December 12th, 2023.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, next, fire and rescue.
Good evening. The first item we have tonight is I just wanted to recognize a few individuals. We wrapped up our Stuff the Medic project, and I was a little concerned. Usually we take that medic unit around to different places. However, the medic unit that was going to do that is being remounted right now. So it just so happens they had the opening, we got it in, so we didn't have it as many places as we normally do, but we were still able to collect over 1,060 toys and non-perishable
Wow.
food items. The vast majority went to Interparish Ministries down in Newtown, and the rest went to Toys for Tots collection with B105. So they all get distributed locally here. I did want to thank Assistant Chief Bob Herlinger, Lieutenant Dan Dacey, Lieutenant Doug Egan, and firefighters Dave Brown, Joe Burkhart, Mitch Cordell, Nolan Ecker, Kerry Hankner, Matt Korst, Ryan Merrill, Mike Montague, Nicole Phillips, Joe Pope, and Ethan Roll in their efforts. They were out, at the multiple events we have. It's really kind of a crushing time period between the Safety Services Day. The next day we're on the Stuff the Medic. So people really don't start thinking about Christmas till we get closer to Thanksgiving, and things really start coming in. So I just wanted to publicly recognize those individuals for all the things, and especially the public. We had the ceremony at the government or the town center up here, and people were going over to Kroger's and buying stuff because they saw us there. So people bought bags and bags worth. So I just wanted to thank, this would not be possible without the generosity of the township, the community, the citizens. The second thing I have tonight is the fire department is seeking authorization to sell a 1999 International box truck that we've had for, I want to say 15 years. But it hasn't made a run in several years. The equipment in it is, in order to use the equipment, we need a lot more people than we have there. Hamilton County USAR has assumed the role of trench and high angle rescues, so they would be who we're going to call in that situation. So there's no need for this truck, and it does need some pretty substantial repairs according to our mechanic. So we're looking for authorization to sell it on Gov Deals with a bottom floor price on it. And there's a resolution for your consideration for
Thank
that.
you. I move to adopt the resolution authorizing the sale of surplus equipment pursuant to Section 505.10 of the revised code, providing for sale of personal property via internet auction.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
And that's all from the fire department.
Thank you.
Happy holidays and
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Chief.
Merry
Yeah, and
Christmas.
thank you for that stuff the truck or whatever. What do we call it? Stuff the
Stuff the van.
stuff the
No, stuff the medic.
Yeah, that was great. I dropped some stuff off after it was 9 United. Their shop and share. I dropped a bunch of stuff off, and it was fun. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we have two resolutions for your consideration for nuisance tonight. One is for securance and one is for removal of debris. The property is located on Bondic and the property is vacant. The owner is deceased. And this house has been on our radar probably since about 2019. He was in a nursing home before he passed away, and it's still vacant. So there is a broken window, so that's the resolution for securance. It's just to board the window, and then the other is to remove some of the debris on the property. And this is a picture of the window. So one is A and one is B.
I move to adopt a resolution providing for the securance of structure on land owned by Samuel W. Speaks or the estate of Samuel W. Speaks located at 1228 Bondic Court in Anderson Township, Ohio, pursuant to Section 505.86 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
And then I move to adopt the resolution determining existence of nuisance on land owned by Samuel W. Speaks or the estate of Samuel W. Speaks located at 1228 Bondic Court in Anderson Township and providing for notice and remediation pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 505.87.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all we
Thank you.
had. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, nothing from the sheriff's office. Wait.
Right, and Steve will be
Oh, yeah, okay. Public Works.
Good evening. I'm not Eric Lugenbuehl, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But I'm going to try my best to give Eric's report. Every other year we come to the board with a 2-year program of projects for the township's road and pavement improvements. This year's project, and I think the map is behind you, and you have that in your packet. Eric is proposing a very aggressive proposal for, and if you look at this map versus prior years, he's all over the place in 2024. It's a 2-year cycle, so this would be curb and sidewalk where they exist on these streets, and then these same streets would come back in 2025, and possibly some additional streets that don't have curb and sidewalk for the paving program. There is a motion in your packet under 11A to authorize Eric working with Mark Magna to prepare the bids and advertising for that program. If there's any questions, we'll do our best to answer those, but I think Eric would say is I think we've made the turn and we're catching up. And the good news is that once we get through a few more of these cycles, we're going to be focusing on paving and able to do more paving or reduce those costs. But there's still some neighborhoods where we have not ever done curbs, and that's where we're looking at here. So.
I move to authorize bid preparation and advertisement for the 2024 curb and sidewalk program.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Okay, Vicki.
Yes, Mr. Magna has the first 2 items.
Hello.
Hi.
The first item I have for your consideration is a resolution authorizing the execution of a master service agreement with Universal Engineering Sciences, LLC, DBA UES. In July of 2018, administration entered into a master services agreement with Geotechnology to perform on-call geotechnical, environmental, special inspections, and construction materials testing for township projects, and subsequently renewed the agreement in 2020. The current agreement expires December 31st, 2023. UES acquired Geotechnology in 2021, and beginning January 1st of 2024, Geotechnology will complete the transitioning process by converting to UES. Attached to your motion is the master service agreement dated November 28th from UES for a period of January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026. A review by staff on minimal unit price increases. Based on this, I recommend acceptance of the master service agreement proposal.
Thank you. I move to adopt the resolution authorizing the execution of a master service agreement with Universal Engineering Sciences, LLC, DBA UES.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item for your consideration is request to authorize to bid the Town Center Way traffic signal improvements. We plan to bid In February, I should read this here. In February, with the bid opening of March 13th, 2024, then I'll come back to make a recommendation to the board at the March 21st board meeting to accept the lowest and best and/or most responsive bidder. Any background on the project, you can ask Steve Severs.
I move to authorize bid preparation and advertisement for the Town Center Way Traffic Signal Improvements Project.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thanks.
Mr. Severs is up next.
Okay, and following up on that, I just want to note that is a grant-funded project, so the majority of that expense will come from Metro through the SORTA funds that we receive, that we applied for. Ms. Lawson, I want to thank you for your comments earlier. Ironically, what you're speaking to on the presentations is a result of exactly what we're going to talk about here, which is our citizen committees and also our planning and zoning staff. I should give kudos to Paul and Sarah, who helped put together that presentation, and we use that for our real estate outreach. But a lot of what's in there and as a result of the efforts of dozens of folks that serve on our various citizen boards and committees. So each December, we take the chance to kind of recognize them and also appoint them for the next year. I'm going to go ahead and pull their names up. It's the least that we can do in recognizing them and thanking them for their service. We also do have this in our Anderson Insights newsletter each fall as well, so this was in the last edition. There are 3 motions that are before you, and they're separated because the first 2 are statutory boards. One is the Board of Zoning Appeals, and second is the Zoning Commission, and then the remainder are non-statutory committees. So if it's okay with the board, I'll go ahead and suggest these motions and read these names into that. But the first is to appoint Paul Cyan to a 5-year term on the Anderson Township Board of Zoning Appeals to expire December 31st, 2028. Scott Lawrence as to an unexpired term on the Board of Zoning Appeals. He's filling a position that was vacated by Steve Haber. And then Greg Heimkreiter as alternate to the BZA for 2024. This does leave one opening on the Board of Zoning Appeals. And again, I should note that the board takes this very seriously, as evidenced by the interviews that you conducted with these individuals in the Zoning Commission. So that would be the first motion for your consideration.
I move to approve the motion outlined by Steve Severs.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. The second item is the Zoning Commission appointment, and the recommendation is to appoint Jonathan Gothard to a 5-year term on the Zoning Commission. Jonathan's a current member of the commission, as was Paul. But would be reappointing them for the 5-year term, and appoint Mike Dangus as the first alternate and Janet Baker as the second alternate to the Zoning Commission for 2024.
I move to appoint the zoning commission applicants as presented.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. And the third is the non-statutory committees. And you'll note this is a little bit less number of folks than prior years. We've consolidated 3 of our committees into a new committee, and I'll touch on that in just a minute. That's the implementation committee. But staff's recommendation is to appoint Ron Edgerton, Paul Brosh, Russ Romey, Rick Voss, and Brian Johnson as the fiscal officer to the Anderson Township Green Space Advisory Committee for 2024. To appoint John Halpin as chair, Bruce Burno, Karen King, Tim Kloppenberg, Chris Pfizer, Jim Romke, Chris Speck, Ron Trenkamp, Rick Voss, and Joe Wilking to the Tree Committee for 2024. The third committee we have is Chris Cawley, Amy Broghamer, Katie Buckman, Ron Edgerton, and Dee Stone to the Greater Anderson Township Betterment Commission for 2024. Fourth committee would be for Susan Ward as chair, Julie Bissinger, Sherry Burnside, Sarah Salenza, Marcia Cole, Abby Lackmeyer, Stephen Long, Mary Nicholson, and George Zabrecki as members of the Anderson Township Senior Center Advisory Committee for 2024. And last and certainly not least is Vicki Beck, Amy Broghamer, Katie Buckman, Matt Chafin, Mike Dangus, Dwayne Donahue, Steve Fagans, Peg Fenner, Brian Gay, Andrea Graneri, Lindsay Griffiths, John Halpin, Joe Heiss, Nicole Hunter, Philip Kiley, Jay Lewis, Elizabeth Mayer, Ann Miller, Dan O'Rourke, Matt Owen, Zach Peterson, Jeff Rosa, Paul Shekels, Paul Cyan, Cindy Sieber, Carl Sieber, Karen Schwamberger, Susan Wheatley, and Jim Willis to the new Anderson Township Plan Implementation Committee for 2024. We're still working on the name of that group, but that's what we're going with at this point in time. So if there's any questions, happy to answer those. And again, thank those volunteers, 70 some odd volunteers that give of their time for our community.
I move to approve everything you just said.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Good stuff.
Thank you. It is
Thank you.
indeed. So, the next item we have is for the Elston connector, or the Elston Road connection. This is the second phase of a two-phase project in the Beachmont and Elston area. This will be connecting the Skytop area, portion of Anderson Township down in that area, as well as Mount Washington to the Little Miami Scenic Trail. As the board will recall, there was a two-step process. The first step we were able to construct earlier this year. That was a portion of sidewalk or trail along Elston Road from Beachmont and Elston down to Spindle Hill Lane in the city of Cincinnati. We were pleased to receive a metro funding for that project, and ultimately that project came in significantly under the engineer's estimate and cost. As we look to phase two, I wish I had the same news, but I don't. This is a program or project that we applied for back in 2000. At that point in time, we had an engineer's estimate, and we applied for the maximum funding, and we were awarded that through the OKI Regional Council of Governments. Unfortunately, the cost of this project, as we reported last November, had significantly increased. Despite staff's efforts to kind of manage that and mitigate that, there is an additional request for the board tonight in the amount of $1.4 million in 1994 TIF funds to cover that additional expense. It is a sizable cost, but really if the township is committed to this project, or any group is committed, now is the time. The project is fully engineered. It's ready for bid by ODOT. It has over $825,000 in funds that have been granted through those transportation grant programs. The other portions that I would note is ultimately this is a project that will and has kind of been billed as connecting the 361-unit Skytop apartment community and the surrounding retail development to the trail. That project is coming online and will add significant tax base back into the TIF fund, which funds are being requested for this project. We also have been talking with United Dairy Farmers, who is in the process of developing plans to redevelop the store at Beachmont and Elston. I don't know if it's public record yet, but we have been having conversations with the other corner at Beachmont and Elston as well for development on that corner, as well as the outlot at Skytop. So that is an area that it really is a growing and will be one that really is an infusion of kind of tax increment funds and energy and activity to the township. Connecting that area to the trail system is key, and it's staff's recommendation that we do proceed. I will also note that the amount that I quoted does include a number of contingencies. We wanted to have those in the event that the project is slightly overbid. If it's well over that, we'd have to come back and have that conversation, but it could conceivably be under as well. So this is basically fronting the money to ODOT so they can bid the project. It would be on schedule for bid opening late winter and construction through 2024, and hopefully completion by early 25. The big cost, and I'm trying to do two things at once by pulling it up here and I can't, but the big cost in this project is the crossing of the Cleft Creek. It's a significant area to cross. We also have to work through some major Duke issues. They have a utility easement that we're following through that area. And so it's an expensive segment, but again, it's one that is key. The other part of this I'll note is the city has actually acquired funding, and their engineering will be building the section up Beachmont into Mount Washington. So really this is yet one more link in that regional network that ultimately connects people in Anderson beyond just the Skytop area. So again, a lot there. There is, I can kind of pull up the map on the website. I think it's helpful to see the big picture. If there's any questions, though, I'm happy to answer those at this point in time.
But, and just to remind people, like all the apartments going in at Sky, how many people, that's over 300 units or something?
361 units, yes.
Yeah, so however many people, plus the ones going up the hill, Signal, or the ones already there. So we're talking that this impacts a lot of residents and how they get on the trail. This is really the only way for them.
It
right?
does, whether they're there or whether
Yeah.
they're using the trailhead that was part of the Skytop community there, right? Probably can't point on your screen, but right in this area is where the
Right.
trailhead is, in that location. It is the connection to that area, and then significantly, and again, we do our best. I think we have a really good working relationship with most of our neighbors, the city of Cincinnati being one of those. There are hundreds of units of houses and apartments that are off of Elston in that area as well, and this provides access down to that area, just as we benefited. And I should note, what's seen in the orange on this map, and I touched upon it in your memo, and I did mention it earlier, that was the Great Park City of Cincinnati connection to complete the Little Miami Trail from Speedway over to Lumpkin Airport. That was a nearly $9 million project. We were going to be a project partner in that, and ultimately our funds were not needed. they completed that on their own. So again, they built something for our residents and our community. I see this as us returning the favor in that connection. And years from now, like the 5 Mile Trail, we had this discussion when we were debating additional expenses 20 years ago. I don't think any of us would ever turn back or regret the decision that was made there. It's the same thing we're looking at here at this time. So
And that TIF is gonna be replenished by Skytop, so.
yeah, Skytop's in the 94 TIF.
Yeah.
Well, this becomes kind of like Little Miami brewing area for us. I mean, and we know what has gone on down there, right next to the trail and all the development down there. And while this isn't exactly downtown Milford, this is kind of the same idea. People going to that location, parking, getting on bikes, getting on the trail, easy, safe. And I see a lot more happening in that area.
Yep.
Maybe even a new gas station, supposedly.
The good and bad news is it's a very small segment, which means it's very connected, but it's very expensive per foot.
Yeah.
And it is. What you see in Loveland and what you see in Milford, this is as close as we have here in Hamilton County to that, and I would expect it would be just as popular.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I move to amend Resolution 200521-05 to authorize an additional $1.4 million in 94 TIF funds from the 2023 budget for the construction of the Elston Road Little Miami Scenic Trail connection, which will utilize $825,000 in OKI TA grant funding.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So the next item we have on item 12E is a motion to accept a real estate donation from Hamilton County and the City of Cincinnati. And again, speaking to the cooperation that we have with our neighbors, this is a acquisition or donation of a piece of property. Essentially, it's in the northeastern part of the community. Let's see if I can pull up the map just to give you orientation. And again, this is Forest Lake Drive right here, back behind the YMCA. And this corridor goes all the way up to 8 Mile and Ivy Trail Drive, or Stony Bridge, coming down the hill. It's approximately 1 mile greenway through there. The township owns green space in that area. The Woods of Anderson has provided an easement through their development when they went through the rezoning. And after 20 some odd years of working through this with MSD and Hamilton County and City of Cincinnati, they have agreed to donate those 2 parcels. So we now have as a contiguous natural corridor from Forest Lake to 8 Mile and Ivy Trails. Of course, that does require the ratification, and that's the resolution that you see before you. This is a project that was identified in our Anderson Trails Plan. Staff's walked this, and we're getting ready with your proposed action tonight to notify the neighbors and begin kind of efforts to make this more known and visible. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's a ravine that follows the creek through there. You'd never think that you're kind of where you are here in Anderson Township. So if there's any questions, happy to answer those. And
if
again,
people want to walk it, now's the time to do it, when it's not overgrown.
yes,
Yeah.
just follow the deer path. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing acceptance of donation and conveyance of real property and interest therein from the Board of County Commissioners of Hamilton County, Ohio to the Township pursuant to the authority of Section 505.10 of the Revised Code.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Parker has the next item.
Thank you. As the board is aware, the township provides disability insurance coverage to employees. We have used Metropolitan Life for this coverage over the last, almost 20 years. We once again have a renewal proposal from MetLife for the 2024 plan year. There has been a slight premium increase, but it's still within the realm of reason, and they have held their renewals flat for the last several years. So based upon our experience with them, I would recommend that we renew with MetLife for this coming plan year, and I believe you have a motion before you.
Thank you. I move to authorize the Assistant Township Administrator for Human Resources to renew the Township's employee disability insurance coverage with MetLife effective January 1st, 2024.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes,
Thank you.
The next item we have for the board's consideration is 2024 membership in the Coalition of Large Ohio Urban Townships. Of the 1,308 townships in the state of Ohio, 60 of them are large, representing more than 1.5 million people. The Coalition of Large Ohio Urban Townships is a subcommittee of the Ohio Township Association. It is a lobbying arm. It is a research arm of the OTA for large townships. We receive weekly legislative updates. We receive information about legislation that impacts our residents and our community. Mrs. Stone was elected by members of that group to serve the Southwest Ohio region. She is a representative for this area and travels frequently to Columbus to learn, most recently at the State House. And I don't know, Dee, if you wanted to mention about your trip to the State House where you met with legislators.
Yeah, it was great. We met with 4 different legislators. They came and talked to us as a group. There were probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 of us from representing large urban townships, and they talked about different issues, and we got to say, our views on some of the issues, what are issues for us here, and then we went over to the State House and met with some of the legislators there as they were in between, going in and out. So it was great. It was a very good experience, and I'm glad we're a part of it. So.
With that, I would ask for the board to approve membership for next year.
I move to authorize membership in the Coalition of Large Ohio Urban Townships, a subcommittee of the OTA for the year 2024 in an amount not to exceed $200.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item involves a contract that the board entered into in 2020 with me to serve as township administrator. The contract is a 3-year contract. It expires on December 31st this year. Due to a number of major projects and a lot of work that has been transpiring over the last several months, I'm asking that the board consider extending this agreement until February 15th, at which time I hope to have more information, items that I've been able to complete over the last year, and to share with you some thoughts and ideas and my goals for 2024. And so therefore, I would ask that you extend my contract until February 15th.
Thank you. I move to adopt the resolution approving an extension of the term of reappointment of the Township Administrator and amending term of the agreement of Anderson Township Board of Trustees and Vicki L. Earhart, Township Administrator, authorized by Resolution Number 20-0924-04.
Second. Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. There is one item arising from executive session discussions. There is a motion in your packet under 12I.
What did you say, Vicki? I'm sorry.
12I.
12I, it's the last page before tab 13.
Yes. I move to appoint Amy Broghammer to the Anderson Township Park District Board of Commissioners effective January 1st, 2024, to complete an unexpired term that ends on May 1st, 2025.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. The next portion of the meeting involves our 2024 organizational meeting, so I'll return it to Mrs. Stone.
And I will ask Mr. Johnson to serve as the temporary chair.
Okay. Do I have a motion to appoint a chair for fiscal year 2024?
I move that Trustee D. Stone be appointed Chair of the Board of Township Trustees for fiscal year 2024.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Don't let us down.
Do I have a motion to appoint a vice chair for fiscal year 2024?
I move that Trustee Josh Girth be appointed Vice Chair of the Board of Township Trustees for fiscal year 2024.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
I will
Right back at you.
I will return the chair back to Mrs. Stone.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Now we're going to set it. I need a resolution for the time of our meetings.
I move that the regular meetings of this board in January through December of 2024 be held on the third Thursday of each month at 5 p.m., beginning with executive session, with the public portion of the meetings commencing at 5:30 p.m., and that regular interim workshop meetings of this board be held on the first Thursday of each month at 2 p.m., both unless notice indicating otherwise is duly given. Be it further resolved that the practice and procedure of adopting the agenda, including the rules pertaining to public forum in each regular meeting of this board, shall continue to be the practice and procedure at meetings in 2024.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Now, at appointment of Sunshine Law Certification Training.
I move to appoint Betty Cowan, Molly Moorfield, Lisa Farrar, and Michelle Moxley as the designees who shall attend the Sunshine Law Certification Training provided by the Office of the Ohio Attorney General and as required by Section 149.43 EI of the Revised Code on behalf of Trustees R.D. Stone, Lexi Lawson, Joshua S. Girth, and Fiscal Officer Brian M. Johnson, respectively.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Okay, now, let's see. Temporary appropriations?
I move to adopt the temporary appropriations for the fiscal year 2024 as presented by Mr. Johnson as follows, as outlined. Are you going to read all these?
No,
Do we have to read these?
I
Yeah.
don't think so. Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Auditor and Treasurer of Hamilton County.
I move that the Auditor and Treasurer of Hamilton County, in accordance with Revised Code 321.34, be requested to draw and pay to Anderson Township during fiscal year 2024, upon the written consent to the County Auditor by Brian M. Johnson, Fiscal Officer, funds due in any settlement of 2024 derived from taxes or other sources payable by law to the County Treasurer and held in the county treasury to the account of Anderson Township and lawfully applicable for the purposes for fiscal year 2024, and the fiscal officer is requested under Revised Code 321.343 to seek periodic advances of taxes to be drawn on the undivided estate tax fund, and the fiscal officer shall forward to the county auditor a certified copy of this resolution.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. And finally, our attorneys.
I move to adopt a resolution and order employing William J. Patterson, Stephen W. Swick, Jeffrey S. Soshkin, Joanne Glass, Thomas B. Allen, Benjamin J. Yoder, and Gary E. Powell as Township's attorneys for particular matters for fiscal year 2024.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. And the last one, limited home rule.
I move to adopt the limited home rule resolution appointing Margaret W. Comey and Locke Lord LLP as law director for a term ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. Okay. I think that's it. We're done. This puts 2023 in the books. Thank you all. Thank you to staff. Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a good holiday, and we are, oh, I'm going to do this because I never do it.
All right.
Oh, do I need a motion? Yeah,
I move to adjourn.
thank you.
Second.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawson?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes. There we go. We're adjourned.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy New Year.
Christmas,
Merry Christmas,
everybody.
everyone. Have a good one. See you in 2024.
Yeah. I'm going to be